Hi, this is Randy Fay, the maintainer of DDEV, and I have been promising you, the advisory group, a little screencast and discussion of the testing resources to help inform us as we go forward with looking at upgrading the testing resources and that kind of thing. So DDEV, as you know, runs on Windows and WSL2 and Mac ARM64 native and Mac AMD64, and it runs on Linux, on all kinds of distributions, and so it has to be tested on all those places, and that's quite a mess, and it's difficult to do. So on every time there's a PR or every time there's a push to master, we have a pile of things that run, and the Linux stuff is mostly on GitHub Actions because it's free. It's free for open source. So when of course we ended up with no funds, I tried to make sure that everything got moved off of there for Linux. So it does a check docs. It runs a whole set of things on Colima, which is Mac. We can run Colima with some limitations on GitHub's free Mac OS thing. It's not perfect, but it works, and it's Mac, and you can't do it with Docker Desktop. There's no way to do an install, there's no predictable way to do an unattended install in the Mac OS environment in CI. So it does a PR build, and it does a whole set of tests, too many of them actually. It does 8 permutations of 2 hours apiece, which is way too much. It tests Nginx and Apache, and it tests with mutagen and without mutagen, and it tests with bind mounts and without bind mounts, and it does a simple lint. So we see all these things come through here. But the tricky part, so if everything was Linux, if the world was just Linux, the world would be a lot easier place to deal with than testing. But almost all the complexities come when you're working with Mac and Windows. So here we have, I'm using BuildKite for most of the self-hosted type of stuff. So we have Mac OS with NFS. We have Mac OS M1. We only have one of those, but it's pretty fast. It only takes 45 minutes for a build. But it's there's only one of them, and Docker Desktop tends to hang from time to time. We run Mac OS mutagen, run Windows with NFS, run Windows with mutagen, which is really, really slow because the start and stop take a long time. And then we run it with WSL2 using the Docker Desktop. And then we have a 2 sets of tests that run on Circle CI. Just open those up. Circle CI has ARM64. So we run an ARM64 and an AMD64 Linux. We don't have the ARM64 capability on GitHub at this point. So Circle CI has that. And we also test the provider push and pull on Circle CI. I think we tested also on GitHub at this point. So there's a lot of stuff to be done there. And so what's doing these Mac tests and these Windows tests? Well, let's take a look here. So this is what's doing it. These are computers that I've scrounged over the years, saying, well, does anybody need that? Do you have any old Macs around? And some of them are my old Macs. There's a 2013, there's a very friendly old Mac 2013 MacBook Air right here that is very good. And here's my own MacBook 2017 AMD 64. And then there's 3 old Windows machines. There's 14 machines here that are set up on BuildKite to do Windows testing, WSL2 testing, and Mac OS testing on AMD 64 and ARM 64. You can see that is a little ghetto. That is not as fancy as we'd like it to be. It's not as organized as we'd like it to be. But it's very effective. I think you'll find that competitors to DDEV may not have any testing at all for Windows. They may not have any support at all for Windows. They probably don't have testing for WSL2. And some of them don't have native ARM64 yet. And maybe, it's so easy to test on Linux, but Linux is not adequately representative of what we do. So here's what we have, and it's kind of old. These are like 2013 machines. There's two other 2013 Macs here. There's a 2015 Mac. They're old. Now, I would love to figure out a way to do this in the cloud that was cost effective. And with Macs, you can definitely do it in the cloud. You can do it on Mac Stadium with Docker. It's real machines. But they're over $100 a month, which is a lot when you consider that you can get a Mac Mini M1 for $500 or $600. So should we get a couple of, should we start to build up a couple of Mac Minis, or should we pay Mac Stadium to host it? They're all accessible over the internet, but they all also need personal attention sometimes. And if you put, if in a perfect world with lots of money, I would absolutely love Mac Stadium. I've used them a lot before. We used to have 3 of them up there. And when something goes bad, you can just open a ticket and they'll reboot it for you. So that means that you could do it from anywhere in the world. Whereas when something really goes bad on one of these, I have to walk upstairs and fiddle with it. And that isn't bad as long as I'm around and as long as I'm the key person looking at it, but it's not that scalable. For Windows, these Windows machines, the Windows native testing, which I had hoped to be deprecating by about now, Windows native is really slow, and so it's a lot of resources, and these machines are not very new. And so we could get, they're called mini PCs. There are plenty of them on Amazon that are like a Mac Mini. They would work better. They would be better than these laptops. Laptops are absolutely not what we really would like to have, because they're a mess. In the latest version of Mac OS, you can't even close here. You see why these 2 newer MacBooks have to be open. Otherwise, no matter what software you have on them, they will stop running. They will sleep. They only started doing that in Monterey, I think. But all the software that used to be able to prevent that is now obsolete. So what should we do about Windows testing? What should we do about WSL2 testing? What should we do about Mac OS testing? I'm interested in what you have to say. I'm interested in ideas that you might have for cloud testing. I should point out that in general, it doesn't work. I've tried a number of different services, and the Windows ones just don't work out because they're running Windows Server, and the Windows Server doesn't have nested virtualization, or if they turn it on, it's too slow. And without nested virtualization, you can't do either WSL2 or Docker. So I've not been successful. I have tried Azure, but it's been a few years. And Azure worked, but it was really flaky. It would these machines would get all croaked up and stop working right. So you couldn't count on them. And it was relatively expensive and unpredictable how much it was going to cost you. So anyway, that's the testing situation. Linux is great. Between GitHub Actions and Circle CI, everything's wonderful. Windows is slow, and Mac OS, we would like to have a little bit more of and a little bit newer of. And Mac Stadium would work, but maybe we should just be, since it's only 6 months worth of rental costs to buy a Mac Mini, maybe we should get a few of those. So thank you very much, and I look forward to discussing it with you. Bye-bye.